a huge challenge that a lot of freelance medical writers will face when they are breaking into the field is that they have a partner who may or may not have a stable income at the time, and they may have parents or friends who are worried that they're not going to get a stable income as a freelancer, and it can all feel very risky. And if you don't always have the support from those around you who sort of understand that there is an element of risk necessary when you're starting a business. And that can really be a make or break thing as to whether somebody pursues their dreams or not. And so if somebody is watching this and they're in that situation where their partner is saying, well, you really should be making an income, like I think a full-time job would be better for you, or have you really thought this through, but they feel like this is what they're being called to do, how can they sort of navigate that, or have conversations around that so that they don't need to necessarily sacrifice what they really want in their career?
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think this is one of the hard things about this is that not all couples or families are equipped or they're accustomed to having these types of conversations. When we talk about career change or life transition, it's a very kind of like existential and emotional topic. And not all couples will think about their life in that way, unfortunately. A lot of people will just kind of go through the motions of their life and they go through each stage of life or their relationship because it seems natural. So you start off dating, you might change to kind of living together and then getting married and then having kids. But those are all things that because maybe it's expected of you or you see it around you, you don't have to think about it too much if you don't want to. But when it comes to real issues like a big change like this, a lot of people will realize, oh, we don't know how to talk about this, or we don't know uh, kind of our own thoughts and feelings about this, or my partner's. Um, People's relationship with risk or relationship with the future is often very kind of deeply rooted in kind of core beliefs and ideas that they have, their views about life in general, and a lot of that can be influenced by their family background as well. So in these kind of change periods in your life, if you're here working on this career change and exploring what that would look like, you need to be ready to have these very kind of deeper and more emotional conversations with the people in your life.
Because I think a lot of times we're not necessarily used to advocating for ourselves or what we want. And sometimes there may be even, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but like almost like one person in the relationship is considered like the breadwinner, or the person whose career is prioritized over the other, or they're just more likely to advocate for themselves or push for what they want, and sometimes one person is compromising more than the other. And at the end of the day there has to be some kind of mutual agreement. But it might not make sense on paper for somebody to be starting a new business when they have to factor in the other responsibilities and other people in their life. So how can somebody kind of make sense of that? And how might they advocate for what they want without kind of upsetting the status quo too much?
hmm Yeah, well, this is reminding me of a concept in therapy, in families and couples. This is called over-functioning and under-functioning. So when one of the people is doing more or putting in more effort, and this can look like the number of hours that you spend with the kids, it can look like how much money you make. One person makes more than the other. And when people kind of get into this kind of status quo where one person is over-functioning, and a change happens or you're considering a change, then that will really upset the balance of kind of the roles and responsibilities in the family or in the relationship. And for the other person who is watching you kind of go through this change or talk about these changes, that can be very concerning to them because they might not know either how to adjust with you because they want to kind of track with you as these changes are happening, or they have a hard time imagining um, how different the future is going to be. And a lot of couples, unfortunately, will end up in a situation of over functioning and under functioning where the roles are kind of not equal. And it's not just like the like physical effort that we put in, but it's also kind of the emotional um I'm not going to say burden, but basically the way that emotions are distributed among people. One person might be bearing a bigger load of like things that they think about or things that they're dealing with, and the other person maybe is focused on other things, or maybe they're just comfortable like not thinking about it because my partner or my family member is doing it for me, for us. So, um, what you want to do is hopefully work towards having a more, at least temporarily, having a more equal, I guess, distribution. And so that might mean, your significant other or your family members have to kind of go through this change with you, and you have to negotiate what the roles and responsibilities are going to be, at least during this period. And it might take a while. It's very similar to um, other families or other couples where one of you wants to start a business in general. This is not just applying to medical writing, of course. Anytime someone wants to start a business or quit their career to do something else, everyone kind of goes through this kind of communication and emotional process, I think. And so it may take some time for the people in your life to understand what is going on and come to terms with it. So one of the things I would say is to kind of practice patience, but at the same time, being consistent in what you're talking about and what you're focused on, so that the other person does start to feel and understand that you're serious about this, you have some sort of plan, and you have a vision for like what it's going to look like, so that we're not just kind of like stumbling into the future not knowing what is going to happen next.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you make a great point about how there may be one person in the relationship who is more visionary and who is more comfortable with taking risks, and one person who maybe is more organized and does talk more about their plans and what they're trying to accomplish. And at the same time, it also reminds me of things that my own business coaches and advisors have said to me on countless occasions, that no one's ever really going to understand the vision that you have for yourself and your life as well as you do. And sometimes it's really difficult to get our heads around the fact that no matter how much we might explain it or talk about it or show people, they're not the ones who are actually doing it. They're not the ones who are getting the mentorship or the training or putting in those hours. And so they might not understand that this is a viable career path, and that there is money in it and there is stability in it if you are persistent and you're putting in the right effort. And so it's kind of allowing yourself this time frame to trust in yourself and be persistent and be patient and kind of let things unfold as they do, and not necessarily expecting that everybody is going to see it the way that you do. And I think it's also important to treat a business as an opportunity to expand your network and build a community for yourself around the new area of work that you're getting into, because especially as a freelancer, it can feel very isolating, especially in the first few months. And to build a support network of people who are also working in the field, and to see that there is work out there, that they're doing really well, that they're enjoying it, to hear all these stories and see all this progress in the people around you, and to have people to go to for mentorship or just to ask questions in general. It can be easy to kind of look to your partner or your family to get that kind of support, but if they're not in the field themselves, they can't really give you that reassurance. And it's more likely that they are going to be more cautious and more, are you sure this is the right thing, because they don't understand it. And so it's having that proactivity on your part as well to say, well, I need to look for evidence that I'm going down the right path and that this is right for me, to encourage you as opposed to discourage as it may come across.